I'm just confused on why I'm here in this predicament. I'm confused why I've been paid close to 5 months, well, November, December, January, 4 months of administrative leave when I only worked there for 50 days.
You're watching a Hot Government Watchdog production. Hot is dedicated to promoting honest, open, and transparent government. Our mission is to empower citizens to monitor, assess, and hold their government accountable.
My name is Michelle Hein. I'm the purchasing agent with the City of Racine.
And how long have you been a purchasing agent in your career?
In my career, I have 12 years of purchasing experience.
So this is the first time working for a municipality?
Yes, it is. During my first 50 days, I wrote 1 IFB and 1 RFP. That was it. Besides that, it was just purchase orders. And there weren't a lot of purchase orders either. A lot of them were for very small things that people needed. A lot of them were emergencies, which I find odd that there were so many emergencies that the work had already been completed and now we just needed to pay the vendor. You know, in the private sector, you're not allowed to pay a vendor without a PO first. Or a signed contract. And so were these really emergencies? Were they valid? Possibly. I don't know. But there was no point that I could question this because the response was it was an emergency. And then I was told, okay, just put that in the notes in Munis and cut the PO. And I'm like, okay. And then, you know, if I question things like the contracts that were at like $49,000 so they didn't have to go in front of council, and you know, I would send emails to specific people and they would respond back to me, not to the purchasing email, which means that Crystal wasn't included. Well, then Crystal would go talk to them and come back to me and she's like, oh, I talked to this person and it's fine to cut that PO. Well, why are you going to talk to people without me present? First of all, I never even met any of the leaders within Racine. The only one I met was Tom from Parks, and that's because he requested to schedule a meeting to review some of his contracts coming up. Besides that, I wasn't walked around, I didn't meet anybody. I mean, I met the mayor, I met Tara, and that was it. There was nobody else that I met. So I feel like I was never really given the opportunity to do my job. If somebody had a question about something, if I wrote an email and they had a question, Crystal lots of times would come to me and be like, oh, I met with this person. And I'm like, why are you meeting with people without me there? Like, understood maybe I can't run the meeting, but without me there, I'm not even learning how to run a meeting or who these people even are or what's going on. And so Crystal took me saying autonomy, meaning that I just wanted to, you know, do everything by myself, which was not the case. I know that I still needed training and coaching and guidance when it came to things because...
Who is Crystal?
She is the assistant finance director who I was reporting to, which since the fact I find that it's odd that I was reporting to her because I'm an appointed position. So technically I'm the director of the purchasing department as the purchasing agent. So I never knew this when I got hired. All of these things came to after the fact. Like I learned all of these things after the fact, after they gave me the termination letter. Although I read the ordinances, I didn't really understand them. I mean, I'm coming from, you know, the private sector, so I didn't understand them. And in my opinion, I would feel like if there's an ordinance there, then that means that your supervisor would sit down and explain the ordinance to you, knowing that you've never worked for the government before and what all of it means. And so I started to have to do all of this research after they gave me this termination letter because I didn't really understand the situation. I do feel that the 2 purchasing agents that left before me, the first one, I don't know if she worked with Crystal or not. The second one, I do know that she worked with Crystal. And I do know that after 18 years of working with the city, not just in purchasing, lots of other departments, she quit without another position because of whatever reason. I'm not able to see her exit interview. I think it would tell a very interesting story that would maybe intersect with some of my comments that I had after my 30-day review. I think there might be some things that overlap there on what I've seen, while I was there for such a short period of time. I feel that, I do challenge things. Because, working, in the public, you have to challenge. There's lots of laws that are out there. So if you don't challenge and you just spend money unnecessary, there's big issues there, right? So
Do you think the city needs an audit?
Yes, most definitely. Most definitely they need an audit. I would be very interested to see how many of the same contractors have multiple, or vendors have multiple contracts where they're making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars with the city. And why are they sole providers? They don't need to be sole providers. Just with this weed contract, well, that's the only person that bid. Okay, well, then you do some research. Lots of landscapers out there. You host a happy hour, not with drinks, like a meet and greet with the purchasing department and landscapers throughout, Racine, Kenosha, that might be interested in this, that they could learn, what they could do for the city, how they could help the city, and not just have one person bid on everything, knowing that it might be possible that he couldn't keep up with all of the work because of all of the weeds, because he has all the other contracts. I'm not saying anything bad about him personally. I don't know, but there's multiple companies that have multiple contracts for things that there are more than just, one vendor that could do this.
What would you tell the Common Council? If you had an opportunity to talk to the Common Council, what would you tell them? What would fix the situation at purchasing department?
I think what would fix is, having somebody allowed to do the actual purchasing agent position. I think that it could very well be that those other duties that were divvied out may have eventually came back to me. Maybe they did that because they didn't want to overload me at once. But if Crystal, my only trainer, was too busy with the budget to be able to work with me on actual sealed bids or non-sealed bids, then that would have been a great time for somebody to teach me how to do the public auctions, the surplus auctions, how to do the P cards. I can't imagine that doing a P card reconciliation every week is a very difficult thing to learn.
Do you think the other purchasing agent, the one prior to you, left because of the P cards?
I think that she left for the P cards, and because she wasn't able to question things that she didn't seem were correct. That if she did question them, then it became kind of like a confrontation of lots of frustrations from her, where she wasn't able to do her job correctly. I may be wrong, but from what I heard, she did go out on a maternity and then an FMLA. And I believe what happened during those times is that Crystal took over the majority of those duties. She took control of those duties and didn't want to give those duties back when my predecessor came back from, her leaves. But again, hearsay, I could be wrong. These are just things, and I would like to say, other people in the office speak very freely about these things. There should be, I could say lots of things that I'm not going to, because it's personal information from my predecessor and Crystal that I should not have knowledge of, but people speak very freely about it. And if Crystal feels that others in the office don't feel that, she's a micromanager or sometimes toxic, she's definitely not correct.
Does the mayor know or the city attorney know what's happening as far as the P cards and the separation of jobs? It sounds like they're setting you up to be a figurehead with no power.
Correct. I don't know if either one of them knows. because the ordinances haven't changed. So I think once I started to understand the ordinance more and started questioning things more is when things more became an issue. I didn't meet the city administrator. I didn't meet the city attorney. I met Corey Mason once. We went out to lunch and had a nice little chat. And that was the only time that I interacted with him the whole time I was there. Again, only 50 days, so I'm not saying that I needed to interact with him, but I find it odd that I wasn't able to interact with anybody while I was there. I mean, when I went to the Common Council to be appointed, I sat right behind Tom from Parks and Rec, and he was like, "Oh, people are going to be so happy that a purchasing agent has finally been hired. You know, we have been having to do so much more of our, looking at bids and this, that, or the other while we haven't had someone." And I think that the department felt that it was okay to let the other departments continue to do their own bidding, and that's really not how it should be. The purchasing agent needs to do all of the bidding when anything is, over $25,000, between $25,000 and $50,000 if it doesn't go with a state contract. End of story. That's the ordinance.
So a lot of these contractors are repeat contractors.
Correct.
That there is no additional bidding done by other contractors. And that's something that I would think that most cities and most municipalities would want that type of protection for the taxpayer. And
Yeah,
you're
you're
saying
correct.
this is something that's been an ongoing, and I believe that from just the actions of 3 other purchasing agents left. And I believe that what you're trying to maybe put out is that you have been hired and were more or less boxed in, and just to get along, come along, get along. And as soon as you started to ask questions, there were issues that needed to be addressed. Maybe the P cards, maybe the bidding, and those issues that you had done in the past as a purchasing agent now turned into a disciplinary action when you ask questions.
That's correct. That's how I feel. Correct. Most definitely. Yeah. Because I think that the more time I swayed away from doing the online videos, like once I got access to this one, I don't know what it's called anymore, one portal that I didn't have access, I was able to go in there and just read all of the contracts. And I would look and you would see the same people over and over and over again. And the reasoning behind it was always, well, this is a specialized skill. This is a specialized skill. Understood. But there's no reason to say that we can't find somebody in the Milwaukee area or somebody in Illinois, or just send it out for bid and come back with the, nobody else bid on it. That's the perfect scenario right there. You cannot continue to say everything's a specialized skill. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that there are specialized skills. I'm not going to say that there aren't. But if that's going to be the same thing over and over and over again, year after year after year, you don't know that there's not new vendors out there. If the City of Racine doesn't reach out to vendors that do these skills and say, hey, we're looking for this, we're looking for that, we're gonna have a sealed bid go up. We would love for you to, go on to Demand Star, register with us, look at our bids, stay in contact with us. Nobody's ever gonna know that they're out there. If we only have the same, 10 people in Demand Star that we send the bids out, well, the same 10 people are, going to get them, send them back.
You're watching a Hot Government Watchdog production. Hot is dedicated to promoting honest, open, and transparent government. Our mission is to empower citizens to monitor, assess, and hold their government accountable. If you have information regarding political, economic, or social injustices that need to be exposed, don't hesitate to contact Hot Government at info@hotgovernment.com. Rest assured, your information will be handled with the utmost confidentiality.
Could you explain a little bit about the P card and how that works?
Yes. So the P card is a city credit card, and somebody would need to request that they have one with a specific dollar amount. This would go through your supervisor at the different departments, and I don't know what the protocol is for getting one. It did seem like everybody was able to get one when they requested it, and they had different limits that they were given. But the point was, if that limit didn't work, then we could always increase the limits. And essentially, it's a credit card that can be used for any purchase less than $5,000. So even $49.99, anything less than $5,000 does not need to go through the purchasing agent to look for a bid on.
Does this have to be city associated with the city as far as their position?
Yes, they have to be a city employee, and it is supposed to be spent on something needed for the city.
Okay, so you're not supposed to use for personal,
Correct.
groceries
Correct. And they do have to sign a letter which will state in there that they are, although they could bring people out possibly for a lunch meeting, they are not able to buy alcohol or tobacco. Those are the only things that are actually called out in the letter, if I remember correctly. But yes, correct. It's not supposed to be used for personal
Has anyone
use.
been disciplined because of the P card?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And from what I understand from the last purchasing agent, there was some issues with that P card. Are you familiar with that, or?
I am not familiar with that, no. I issued maybe 4 P cards before they gave that to another person in the office, and those P cards were requested by somebody else, so I wasn't the one requesting them through the bank. So I didn't even know what the limits were or any of that. I had nothing to do with any part of that, but per the ordinance, I should have been the one to do that.
Do you know how many P cards were actually issued?
Oh, well, I was there in 50 days. I mean, there were at least 5.
And how many do you think are issued throughout the city? You have any idea?
How many employees are there with the city? Would you know?
I don't know.
Around? I would think that, oh my goodness, probably the majority of city employees have them, with the exception of customer service. I know, I believe it's DPW that the electricians work through. I know that they all have those, and they're able to go to Home Depot and Menards and buy things, and they have, like the tax, what's that called? The tax-free exempt card that they have, and they could use that for personal purchases and nobody would know, I guess too. But I know all of them have them, and there were 5 of them, and I don't know why all of them would need that, and not just the supervisor of the department. I don't feel that everything should be like I said, a last minute that needs to go through Home Depot and Menards. Why is there not a way to have the purchasing agent perhaps go to Home Depot and Menards if necessary and negotiate and send a purchase order and possibly get a lower cost than retail as well?
Where does that money come from? And how is that funded, the P card?
That is a good question. I don't know. I don't have anything to do with the budget, but I'm sure it's a line in the budget somewhere.
Do you believe that the P card should be audited?
Oh, I most definitely believe the P card should be audited. Yeah. I think the whole office should probably be audited.
Is it your job to audit?
I believe yes. According to the ordinance, I would have been the one to review all the the purchasing on the P cards and reconcile and question any charges that didn't have to do with the city.
Did you bring that issue up at all?
No, I was told that during the time frame that there wasn't a purchasing agent, that responsibility had been given to somebody else in the office, and that more than likely I would not be getting that responsibility back. I just feel like these charges are very vague, and only being somewhere for 50 days, I don't feel that I was really given the opportunity to learn my job, to do my job, to really make any sort of difference in my job. It could be possible that, I questioned why there were expired contracts where people were still getting paid, and why was a new contract or a bid not sent out. That could be a possibility. Some of these contracts had been expired for months. It wasn't just like they expired within the last 30 days. It could be possible that I questioned why there were so many emergencies, or why there were so many contracts or purchase orders written for $49,000, so we didn't have to go to Common Council, or how I knew that, when somebody requested for a purchase order under $49,000, they could do that if they have that money remaining in their budget. Well, if I don't know how to look at the budget to determine if that money is remaining, I can't do my job properly. Just being told, oh no, it's in there, write the PO. Well, that's great, but I'm the purchasing agent, and if there is an audit, it's going to come back and I'm going to be the one at fault, not you. So it would be nice to learn these things. So I didn't, this training and coaching that they said that I didn't have. I had Crystal reading my, RWP penalty papers, or RWP approving final payouts and changing the wording in there to fit how she wanted. That's what I got. I didn't get an explanation on why it should be worded different, why the templates that the previous purchasing agent used that were designed with the city attorney's office were no longer valid. I didn't get any of that, background information. So I'm just confused on why I'm here in this predicament. I'm confused why I've been paid close to 5 months. Well, November, December, January, 4 months of administrative leave when I only worked there for 50 days. They did offer in my last separation agreement that they would pay me through the end of March with full benefits, and that they would remove the no hire clause, which they did. So I guess the question would be is, if you're willing to rehire me, why can't I just have my job back and prove that I can do it?
Well, it's a good interview, and if there's one thing that what you want to accomplish here now that you're going to go in front of the Common Council, is that what's going to happen now? Is that your next step?
That is my next step. Yes, I don't know when, but yes, that will be my next step.
And this is your ultimate goal is to stay working for the City of Racine?
Correct. Yes, I would love to have my job back. Might need to negotiate a little bit on who I report to if possible. But no, I was very excited about getting a job with the city. I'm not, a resident of the city, but I am of the county. And I really was like, oh, this is going to be wonderful. I'm going to be able to help the constituents of the city. I'm going to be able to help save money if possible, reduce taxes for them if possible. And not saying that that's possible. I don't know. I was not given the chance. So yes, most definitely, I would love to be able to have my job back. That's the whole reason behind this. I thought, financially, it's nice to have an offer to get paid through the end of March. But what happens after that? If I don't find a new job, I can't collect unemployment, and I am a single mom, so obviously I'm the only, I'm the breadwinner for my family. I gotta be able to take care of my kids. And although that sounded nice, at the same time, I'm agreeing to these charges in my opinion, and I don't believe these charges are valid. Again, I will say insubordination, subjective. Possible with that one confrontation I had, I would admit to myself that that's insubordination. But I don't believe it's insubordination enough in a way to not follow the normal disciplinary action to have the conversation be written up. I don't feel that it goes straight to being fired. I get I'm an at-will employee, possibly was 90-day probationary period that was not in, my offer letter, that is not in the employee handbook that you're under a 90-day probationary period. So possibly, but if that's the case, it's my 90-day probationary period. As an at-will employee, they no longer want me to work there anymore. They don't need to give me a reason. They don't need to say insubordination and negligence. And the negligence, that really hits me hard, so.
You're watching a Hot Government Watchdog production. Hot is dedicated to promoting honest, open, and transparent government. Our mission is to empower citizens to monitor, assess, and hold their government accountable. If you have information regarding political, economic, or social injustices that need to be exposed, don't hesitate to contact Hot Government at info@hotgovernment.com. Rest assured, your information will be handled with the utmost confidentiality